Hi everyone, 3 men and a whiskey, and I've got 2 to go. 2 whiskeys, 2 Christmas movies, and then my advent calendar will be complete. Now, I watched Gremlins yesterday, which I described as the first in a trilogy of films that I wanted to close this advent calendar out with. And the reason for that is because they're 3 great Christmas movies, but also because they're as close to a Christmas tradition that I have. I try to watch these 3 movies every Christmas. Don't always manage it because life gets in the way. But this year, it's looking good. So yeah, and with Gremlins, I described it as 1980s Americana. And so today, I'm watching something that is 100% Cool Britannia. Because up until this movie was made in 2003, British Christmas movies were pretty much always an adaptation of Charles Dickens, right? And that was fine. That was okay, but it was nice when a movie like this came along that was completely different. That was, in many ways, summed up this phase that Britain was going through called Cool Britannia, when British movies and British music was spreading all over the globe and being incredibly successful. We had great bands, great music, and in the movie world, we had these great directors who were producing incredible films that were not just period dramas or James Bond movies. They were all kinds of genres. People like Danny Boyle, Richard Curtis, who were people leading that wave. And Richard Curtis was making incredibly successful romantic comedies that were, in particular, taking the US by storm, but were big, big global hits. And in 2003, he decided to try his hand at making a British Christmas movie. And you all know which one I'm talking about. It is the one with the largest cast of characters ever, with so many overlapping storylines that it kind of shouldn't work, but somehow it is 100% Christmas cheese, and it's brilliant. Love Actually. When I first saw this film in 2003, I absolutely adored it. I came out of the cinema going, oh my God, I want Hugh Grant as my Prime Minister right now. To be honest, I would take Hugh Grant as Prime Minister, anytime these days. Because, it's Hugh Grant, he's awesome. But thinking about the cast of that film, it is really quite remarkable just how many people, particularly British actors in there as well. There's a few non-British people in there, but got to be slightly diverse, I suppose. And in addition to Hugh Grant, we've got Emma Thompson, Colin Firth, Liam Neeson, Keira Knightley, Bill Nighy, Alan Rickman, Thomas Brodie Sangster as he went on to do things like Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Laura Linney, not British, but we'll let her off. Andrew Lincoln, Martin McCutcheon, Martin Freeman, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Rowan Atkinson, Chris Marshall, Billy Bob Thornton, also not British, but very cool. It was just a cast of gazillions, and each and every one of them was superb. But this was the Cool Britannia film. It is dated. I know it's dated. There are some problems with it. One of the storylines in particular I know is problematic and has been called out as problematic by the director and by the actors involved in it. They've all kind of said if they were to make this film again now, they would probably do things a bit differently. And I respect that. Again, films are products of their time, and we can't be constantly judgmental over every single thing. If you can look past some of that and recognise that a movie is a product of its time and it can still be very, very good, then you should be okay. And I tend to give this movie a pass because it's a Christmas movie. It's as Christmas movie as they come. I am convinced Richard Curtis sat down with a checklist going, I need this, I need this, I need this. And he had it all, right down to the big musical number, which is, quite frankly, one of the great musical numbers of our time, with Bill Nighy in a standout, classic, breakout role that just hits every mark. So I am going to go and watch that. Really looking forward to it. And to pair with it, I need a whiskey that is as close to Cool Britannia and quintessentially British as I can think of. Now, British, that isn't a problem. There's a lot of distilleries in Britain. You know, Scotland has like a gazillion. But for it to be Cool Britannia, it feels like it needs something else. And the thing about Love Actually is that while it is Cool Britannia and while it is very British, it is also very London. You know, Britain is one of those places where we have London and we have the rest of Britain. And this movie is very much firmly in the former, right? It is London. Everything about it is London. It's set in London. All the characters live there, pretty much. And, you know, that's what it is. And so the whiskey I need to have needs to reflect that. And the only one I could choose, the only one that makes sense, is a Bimber. Now, Bimber are a relatively new distillery. They've only been around since 2015, but they have taken certainly the English whiskey side of things by storm. You know, they're based in London. They are very, very, they very much hark back to that Cool Britannia age. You know, everything about them is quite cool. They right down to some of the releases they do. You know, they've done these London Underground releases. They've done, they did one for the Jubilee. You know, it's all very ultra British from that perspective, and it's great. You know, it's really, really good. And the bottles sell out all the time. You know, they're exclusive bottles. They're just very hip. They're just very in. They're very London. And so they're the perfect distillery to pair with a ultra London, ultra cool, as it was in 2003 movie like Love Actually. And the one I've chosen is this one here in the lovely orange tube. Do you remember when whiskies used to come in tubes? You can tell this is a few years old because these days you're more likely to just get the bottle and nothing for it to go in because there's a shortage apparently. And it's orange because it has been finished in orange wine casks, hence the lovely colour. And I've not even opened it. I need to crack this open actually and pour it into my glass. But I've never tried it. I have had other Bimbers before, but I've never tried this one. So I'm really excited to give this a go. It's 50.2%, only 2,100 bottles made. So again, it's a small distillery. So most of their bottles tend to be quite exclusive. And yeah, I'm going to go watch Love Actually, see how dated it is after 21 years, and give my Cool Britannia style whiskey a go as well. So I will see you in a bit. Right, I'm all done with Love Actually. I'm not quite done with my whiskey. I poured a second one, and so I am clearly I liked it quite a bit. And with Love Actually, I think people fall into two camps. They've either, they don't like it, it's not their kind of thing, for whatever reason, or they absolutely love it. I don't think there's really a middle ground. Maybe it's a bit of a Marmite movie. And I'm definitely in that latter camp. I absolutely love this film. Yes, it is problematic in places. Some of the, some of the storylines don't work maybe the way they did 20 years ago. But like I said, Richard Curtis, the actors involved, have all acknowledged it. They've all commented about how they would do things differently, and so I think you give them a pass. It's like, that's the most that's the most you can ask of anyone. I tend to be a bit more judgmental when the actors or the writers and directors involved go all defensive and say, "Oh no, I'm not going to change anything." The fact that these guys recognise it, I respect, I do. And look, it's a Christmas movie, right? And what movie hasn't dated? From Trading Places to It's a Wonderful Life, they've all dated in some way. And the movies that Red One will absolutely have dated. When we look back on it, it will probably have dated within a couple of years, if we're being honest. It's the way it goes. But at its heart, Love Actually it's awesome. You know, it's genuinely such a good film, and I have a soft spot for it because I like a lot of the cast in it. You know, I love Alan Rickman. I think he was one of the all time greats, and he does a great villain as well. And look, and I don't, getting into the debate here. He's a semi villain in this, right? Yeah, no, he's still he's a great character. Bill Nighy absolutely is the glue that holds it together, which is interesting because his is the one story that doesn't really overlap with anyone else's. But because he's central to it and he's there throughout, interspersed throughout, he's kind of that glue. And it's such a performance. It's so great. The aging rock star who just wants one last big hit and is willing to sell his soul to do it. I mean, that is Christmas songs to a T. Christmas songs, like Christmas movies, are not necessarily always high quality. They're about sentimentality, they're sugar and sweet, and they're over the top. And honestly, if Bill Nighy's song could actually have gone on to be a Christmas classic forever, I would have loved that, because that's what Christmas songs should be. One criticism of this film, of course, is the other musical number for me, which is the Mariah Carey track. It was already a famous Christmas song, but this film just gave it a turbo boost, right? And made it and got it to the point where that song is now the Christmas song, which is frustrating. No offense, Mariah, but yeah, it gets a bit old. Everyone who likes this film has their own favourite storyline in it. Mine have changed over the years. They really have. They bounce around. I think it's just literally because there are 2 or 3 storylines which are really, really strong. Some of the others are weaker. The guy going off to the US, because US girls are hotter, is stupid. But it's a Christmas film, so you kind of let it go. But look, the Hugh Grant, Martin McCutcheon story is a lovely story. I'm sure Hugh Grant would make a terrible Prime Minister in reality, but we all wanted him to be our Prime Minister back in the day, and some would probably love him to be Prime Minister these days as well. The Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman story is absolutely heart-wrenching. It's so well done, and Emma Thompson in particular, just again, even though this is a romantic comedy, a Christmas movie, she brings such acting chops to the table that it's so powerful. When she goes up to listen to her Joni Mitchell CD, it's stunningly good. And the Liam Neeson, Thomas Brodie Sangster story, that is the sugar and sweetness of the Christmas movie. The little kid, you've got to have a little kid, and it's pitch perfect. It's absolutely brilliant for a Christmas movie. It really, really is. The other ones, the other stories are, not as I guess they're the B stories in many ways, but they're all of a certain level. And the Laura Linney one, with her brother, and what's he called, Carl, the hot dude that she fancies. That's quite nice. And that's one of the things I like about this film, is that it is very, so many love stories are Disney perfect, whereby everyone lives happily ever after. And what I love about Love Actually is that that's not the case. Laura Linney doesn't get the happy ending. Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman don't get the happy ending. It's one of those that is, I'm probably reading too much into it, but it's something quite powerful in that, for a Christmas movie. But hey, there you go. That's my thing. I love it. I think it's a great film. And with that in mind, I'm gonna go Gremlins here. I'm gonna give it an 11. 11 Pipers Piping, because yes, it has dated, but so have all the others. And sometimes you just have to say, you know what? It's dated, but it's still great. And it is. So yeah, love it. I've got a soft spot. I'm obviously biased. And, you know, clearly I just wish that Cool Britannia would come back again, because we haven't had it for a good long while. Whiskey. What about my my orange whiskey? Well, it's good. It is good. The orange, the citrusy does come through. You know, it's there. It's not as strong as I expected it to be. I thought that was going to kind of overpower things, and it doesn't. Bimber, I am certain, has a signature profile. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what that is. I've only had a few Bimbers. They've only been around for, 9 years. So, it's not like they're, they are renowned for a particular, that I know of, that they're renowned for a particular flavour profile. And that might be because they do experiment quite heavily. They have lots of different cask finishes. But this is, it's great on the nose. It's got, it's got a level of complexity. It's not as complex as some, and again, I think that's probably to do with the age. But the orange, the citrus, definitely comes through on the nose. It comes through on the palate as well. There's a little bit of burn, which I think is probably the age, but nothing too terrible. And it just, it's just a very good dram. It's just a very decent dram of whiskey. So yeah, I'm into that. And if you can get hold of a bottle, you can definitely pick them up on the secondary market. Okay, they don't go crazy prices on the secondary market. If you want to pick up a bottle, because they will have sold out. They almost always do. But the great thing about Bimber is they're a bit like Glenallachie. They're always releasing new stuff. So you can pick some up, and it's nice to support a Cool Britannia, quintessentially London, Britain whiskey. Yeah, good stuff. I'm going to give it an 8. 8 out of 10. I think that's fair. And we'll leave it there. So, thank you as always. Do like, subscribe, and all that stuff. I've got one more to do, and when I'm done, I will probably post another video at some point with the scores on the doors, so we can see what all those scores came out at, because I need to check my spreadsheet to see what they were, because I've forgotten, inevitably. Blame it on this. And yeah, I will see you all on Christmas Eve. Cheers.